This is the book. If you're just joining us, this is the book that I read. It's by Colleen Hoover. It's called It Ends With Us, which you would think It Starts With Us would be the first one, but it wasn't. Okay. So Colleen Hoover apparently is a very popular author. All right. She goes by Hoko. I didn't know this until I posted on my social media feeds that I'd read these two books in a week. And the reason why this second book was written is because Hoko fans demanded it. They wanted more of the two characters in the original book. It Ends With Us. Now, I'm not going to give any plot points away. Okay, so this is not going to be a spoiler or anything. But this book, it's pink. It has pretty flowers on it. Let's see. It says it's a pulse pounding novel. These are the reviews on the back, right?
I like pulse
it's a
pounding.
glorious read, brave and heartbreaking novel. So there you go. Thank you for bringing that up, Kim. So, if you read it and then you read, you open it up and you read the inside of it. And I just always this is the end sentence. It ends with us as an unforgettable tale of love that comes at the ultimate price. It doesn't really touch on the heaviness and what could possibly trigger people reading this book. And this is my question. Now, Colleen Hoover is being called one of the most controversial authors, or could be, because people are saying she's not giving readers enough of a quote unquote warning that these books can be a bit traumatic for some people. Now there's sex in this book. It's not like 50 Shades of Grey sex in this book, but they're having sex. They're talking about it. It's a bit spicy, but not. I've read spicier. Let's just say that. But it is violent. It is there's a lot of violence in this book. Do you think that books that you read and there's no pictures, there's nothing graphic except what you're creating from the words in your own mind, okay? Do you think there should be warnings on books like this, like there are, let's say, with movies?
I think there should be, on the back cover when you read the little snippet before you buy the book.
Right.
Right. It should say, tell the story that there's a violent attack or whatever, so that you know what you're getting into. Is it a murder mystery? Is it a love story? Is it both?
Right.
Bless you, my friend. Morning sneezer. But yeah, I think that you should be able to, before you buy it, kind of know the flavor of the book without giving away the whole plot.
Right.
I've seen some people upset if there's a sexual attack in the book, or if it doesn't end on a happy note, or if a main character dies, that it can somehow be triggering. Well, you have to expect that when you're reading someone else's story, anything is possible. Right? But I would think that the author, when they're writing their little blurb for the cover, or whoever writes the blurbs for the back cover, would say, on a stormy night, so-and-so was violently attacked. And, then on comes the murder mystery where she falls in love with a so-and-so, right?
Right. In this book, though, I had no idea I did not know about Colleen Hoover and this controversy until after I read the book. I had never heard anything about her. I will tell you, when the violence happens in this book, I was shocked. Oh. If I had known ahead of time, I think it would have lost some of the, I don't know, shock value. And what makes it good, like, you don't see, as a reader who knew nothing about her past works, I didn't see it coming, which kind of, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, made me relate to the main character who didn't see it coming. Does that make sense? Right? So it shocked the main character. It shocked the reader. If I knew ahead of time, well, it would have taken a lot of the out of the book, right? Now, Amy says, I couldn't finish the book. I stopped halfway when it was clear that it wasn't what I expected. Mm-hmm. I have never, well, I won't say never, but it's hard for me to not finish a book, even if I don't like it. If I'm halfway through it, I'm like, I gotta finish it, even if I don't like it. I'm invested.
Once you're in, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll turn a movie off. Not finishing a book that I'm halfway through. I'll stop if I'm only like a couple of chapters and I'm like, I'm not interested in this book at all. I've done that many times. But I just feel like you can't give everything away in books because it's a commitment to read a book versus watching a movie, Now, what about sex? Are you a spicy novel reader? Do you like,
I love a little spicy in my
Yeah, yeah,
novel.
yeah. Okay.
That's it's
How young or old does Julia have to be before you would be comfortable with her reading spicy books?
So Julia has read the Jenny Han series of books of The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Okay.
Okay. This is a book about
But
teenage
I wouldn't call
love,
well, okay,
sex,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
drugs, there's partying, there's all kinds of stuff going on in these books. But I want to encourage her to read, right? And
Yes.
so she's 14. I know she's going to start knowing about some of this stuff. I don't want to normalize teenage sex and have that be okay. But at the
Right.
same time, if she finds a book series that she's into, I don't want to discourage that because I want her to read. I would rather her read than, you know, watch,
Not.
right, than not, than
Yeah.
do anything else.
Haven't do anything else. What if
So
the book
I let her watch the I let her read the books and then we watch the show together. Yeah.
and this show is not that spicy, I'm
No.
sorry. Um, what if it's spicy, spicy, okay,
Mm,
but they're married?
no. There's some stuff she doesn't need to read about graphic sex and stuff.
So
I don't think.
well, I mean, and again, I don't. It's always flowery in books, right? Like they have
Yeah.
weird names for like men's parts and women's parts and how they
Yeah.
describe it. That's just the
Yeah.
book way of writing about sex, right? But why? If it's
I
not
don't
talking about underage teenage sex and it's just words, and you're not seeing something graphic on screen is what I mean. You know what I mean?
I guess it's the same thing that I was reading this Colleen Hoover article, and the complaint is that her books normalize abuse, right?
Right.
And I don't want sex normalized for my teenager yet, right? I don't want her first sexual experiences to be these things that are kind of nonsensical and not based in reality or have this. It's like people who watch porn, right?
Right.
Boys that watch porn, girls or boys who watch porn, and that's what they think sex is.
But do you
That's what
think that
they
you're going
think.
to get the same reaction from reading about a
None of
sex
that's
scene
true.
versus watching it?
Yeah, I think that girls will read these flowery romantic books where that she's laid down gently on a bed of
Well,
flower
what if it's
petals
good
and
sex, Kim? I mean, don't you want like I'm not talking about Julia, but I'm just saying like
no.
I would if it's a
Listen,
good
it's great for me, but not so much for my kid, okay?
I don't see it the same way. I don't see like if I walked into my daughter, okay, into my
Hmm.
daughter's room or my son's room. I shouldn't be sexist about this, okay? And they're reading. Now, I'm not saying 50 Shades of Grey because I think that kind of goes under what you were talking about with Colleen Hoover. I think that
Hmm.
book is extremely problematic for how they describe their sex scenes and what people like. But if they're just reading like, those ones you find at the grocery store at the end of the aisle that are just ridiculously spicy
Uh-huh.
books, I don't think I would have that much of a problem with it because as long as it doesn't have that kind of 50 shades of gray kind of glossing over abuse
Right.
and submission and that BDSM type of thing that but if it's just like he laid her down in a bed of roses type of crap, I don't think I would care because these kids are already their
Yeah.
hormones and everything are already
Yeah.
going up. Words, I would much rather them look at than pornography or videos or something that's so
Well,
unrealistic.
and I really am being kind of hypocritical because when I was her age, my mom had the book Wifey in her room, Judy Blume Wifey. Remember that book?
Wifey. Yes, yes,
I
yes.
was stealing that book as much as I could and flipping to all the nasty parts. Absolutely. So
And it's your mind that
I'm just
makes it. I
saying,
mean, they are just words. The difference between, in my opinion, video like pornography and
yeah.
books is like the video, it's like, wham bam, thank you, man. Oh, I dropped it. That's not realistic. And you don't want to think that things happen that way. And usually there is this power struggle that's always with the woman in the losing position.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, not all the times, it depends on the author, the woman's pleasure is really like made to be this great thing, and I think that that's refreshing. If I'm going to expose my teenagers to something like this, I want it to be where the woman is satisfied, if that makes sense. Yeah, Randy, you're right. Kim, your teen is already exposed to all of that stuff. Yeah, it was just one of these questions because this book is lying around. I'm going to loan it to one of my friends, but if my
Yeah.
daughter really did want to pick it up, would I have a problem with it? It was just this question that I had in my mind. Kim says, seriously, books are meant to catch us, to take us to places and interest us. If we start telling everybody what they're about and the synopsis with every shocking event, why would we bother to read it? Exactly.
Yeah.
I would not want to know about the twist in this book because it would have lost all of its punch. Lizzie says, I am much more sexually aroused reading a romance novel with graphic sex than watching anything on TV. And
Yeah.
in fact, I can't stand it when people kiss on TV and they make that gross sucking sound. Your imagination can go wild with books, right? It's like you're all reading it in mixed company and you're like, oh, this is getting saucy. It's one thing to have things exposed to teenagers, just natural life, but to be pushing it to our school system, no. Do you mean books, like having these books available in like libraries?
Yeah. I mean, you can't have romance trash available at the school. I mean,
Well,
you
I
could,
mean, you
but like,
could, but
what's
not
the
like 50 Shades of Grey. I would not
what's
like,
the
but
literary point of it? I mean, you're trying to educate kids, not,
I mean, how many, okay, maybe
sexually
this is
gratify
naive.
them.
This is naive of me to say because my daughter is just in high school. But I feel like my kids get more books when I buy them or I take them to our public
Yeah.
library than they're getting library time at high school, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have a class in the library. I don't know if, again, I don't, maybe I'll ask my kid, do they just walk you guys into the library to pick out a book like they did in elementary school? Like that was a thing in elementary school. I don't know if it's a thing in high school. And if they're going to the public library, all of these books are there. And I'm like you, Kim. I don't care. Read something. I don't know if it's.
Read
I don't. I
whatever.
just
Yeah.
don't care. Just read something. Like
Yeah.
my daughter picked up this book, and I read the synopsis. Seemed a little dark, but we talk about it, and I'm like, okay. As long as you're reading, it's
Yeah.
it's it's fine.
One thing
Um,
about this author, Colleen
mm,
Hoover, I
Coho,
think
as her friends call her.
oh, sorry,
Coho.
Coho. I think this is one of the coolest things. So
Uh,
it's kind of like I don't know what to call it, the American dream, but the dream of writers to do something like this, to go from being a self-published author
yes.
to being like this number one, let's see, within a span of 10 years, she went from being a self-publishing books on the side to
Hmm.
selling 14.3 million copies of her work in 2022.
That's
So
awesome.
here's a woman who's got she's got a day job, she's writing on the side, she's self-publishing, probably not making much money, and then it catches on like wildfire, and all of a sudden she is now one of the, I think she's the second most searched, second most followed. Yeah.
Wow.
940,000 followers on Facebook, 1.4 million on TikTok. Here it is. She's the second most followed author on Goodreads after Stephen King.
Wow. And now I just read on that
Mhm.
CNN article, Blake Lively,
Lively.
um, is going to be playing a character. They're going to make a movie adaptation of
Oh.
It Ends With Us. I didn't know they were making it into a movie. I usually like to read books before they make it into movies, so I'm happy about that. I don't know if I'd watch the book though, or watch the movie though. The book was really, really good. Um,
Are all of her books regarding the same characters, or are they all
no,
like
just these
standalone,
two.
different?
These
Okay.
two. Now I don't know who has recommended this. Somebody when I had posted about these books, Verity is another Coho book, a Colleen Hoover book, and I read the synopsis of that. That is a book where I can tell it's going to be dark. It looks
Hmm.
dark. The cover of the book is dark. It's like green and black, right? Dark colors. This does not. So yeah, I don't see Verity up there, but that's those are all of her books.
But now you know. Well, see, once you read one, you kind of get the flavor for the author. You know now that anytime you read one of her books, you're going to have a little plot twist. You might have some violence thrown at you. You might not
Yeah.
expect it, but it's coming.